All right, I've been wanting to record this story for the longest time. Now, this is not the average story that you hear on my channel. This is the narration of an experience of kind of a life-changing experience that I've had. And this was when I recently went on a bicycle trip to the beautiful mountains of Kashmir and Leh Ladakh. Now, this trip was something that really was, it seems like it was just meant to be because I had never really planned for it. I've been wanting to do it for the longest time, but somehow I never thought I would make the time for it. But it so happened that a friend of mine, one of my closest school friends, happened to mention to me in passing that he'd signed up for a trip to Khardungla Pass, which is one of the highest motorable roads in the world. And this friend isn't really, in my knowledge, he wasn't really a cycling enthusiast. So I was a little taken aback. I was like, "Are you sure you're saying a bicycle ride, or do you mean a motorbike?" He's like, "No, I'm going on the bicycle." I was like, "Wow, I want to do that." But I did not really think I was at the level of fitness that this kind of an expedition needs. However, cut to the chase, I ended up signing up literally 3 days before the expedition began. It was supposed to be a ride from Srinagar, which is in J&K, Jammu and Kashmir, and for the riders, all of us riders, to ride from Srinagar to Leh, which was a distance of approximately 425 kilometers in the mountains. And this wasn't something that I really thought I was up to in terms of my fitness, but like I said, I signed up 3 days before the expedition was to begin. And the ride from Srinagar to Sonmarg to Dras to Kargil to Saspol to Leh, these 6, 7 days were beautiful in themselves. There were a bunch of challenges. Let me not get into those right now, but the ride itself was so beautiful. Every single day we had some crazy, amazing mountain terrains. The terrain kept changing, the weather kept changing, but it was simply mind-blowing, the experience that we had through those 6, 7 days. But this story is not about those 6 days. This story is about the final day, which was meant for us to attempt to ride up to Khardungla Pass from the city of Leh. Now, Leh is at approximately 10,500 or 11,000 feet above sea level, and Khardungla Pass is about 18,000 feet, give or take, above sea level. Now, that's a an elevation of about 7,000 feet, which in cycling terms is very, very significant. And this, especially at the altitude that we were already starting off from, meant that the air would be much thinner and breathing that much more difficult. So all those factors put together, this was going to be one hell of an attempt. There were a bunch of deterrents, frankly, that would have kept me from attempting Khardungla uh, or the ride to Khardungla, but somehow a lot of things worked out, and in my mind, I was very, very determined to attempt this um, ride. Now, what I'm going to narrate um, in going forward in this video is going to be with the help of some pictures that I have from that ride. And I will start by sharing my screen. And what you'll see in a moment is one of the first um, pictures that I have from that ride. This was give or take maybe 6:30 in the morning. A friend of mine who was another rider on the in the group that I had gone with was the only one to accompany me on this ride. So the two of us started off at early in the morning at about quarter to five. It was not really early, but it was still quite dark and chilly, and the temperature was give or take -2 degrees centigrade, if I remember correctly. Now, at about 6 o'clock, we hit this patch of road, which was beautiful. You can see the tarmac was lovely, and I was really, really excited to have, that kind of a road, and I was looking forward to it. Um, kind of assuming that this is how the ride was going to progress, that the rest of the ride was going to be uh, similar. I couldn't have been further away from the truth, because as we progressed, the ride started getting increasingly difficult. Although at this point it wasn't very difficult. What you see on my screen still was a good stretch of road, although the climb was starting to, if not tire me out, it was starting to show that, there was significant amount of effort required. And then all of a sudden, the road just vanishes. And I'm left with this broken, under construction road, as you can see. If I zoom in a little bit, you'll see that there's literally no tarmac. It was just gravel, and not very comfortable gravel to be riding a bicycle on at that. But I kept going, and it was quite beautiful, the feeling as I kept climbing. This picture must have been after about an hour and a half of riding. So you can see the sun's starting to peep out of the clouds, and it's starting to get a little warm. I was wearing a raincoat because it was quite chilly, so I was layered up. I honestly had not prepared very well for this ride, for this entire expedition. I hadn't carried too many warm clothes. I was wearing a layer of thermal clothing, which was my base layer, and then I had a couple of t-shirts and jerseys on top of that, a jacket that I had borrowed from my son, which you can see there, the blue one inside of the just under the raincoat. And then I just slapped on the raincoat saying, okay, that's the fifth or the sixth layer, whatever that number was. But yes, it was starting to get a little warm because the ride itself was starting to, make me not sweat really. I wasn't sweating. It was quite chilly. It was still uh, probably -2 degrees, or maybe even under. And as you can see, there were bits of tarmac, patches, but once again the road gave way, and I was riding on gravel pretty much. But look at the view behind me. And this is something I noticed. Now, these pictures were taken by, a photographer who is frankly taking candid shots, and I had no idea where he was. But every time I've zoomed in on any of these pictures, most of these pictures, I seem to be smiling. I have no idea what I was smiling at, but I must have been, well, I was enjoying the ride. Um, but I did not expect myself to be smiling with that kind of elevation. Where we are at this moment must have been after a climb of at least 1,000, maybe 1,500 feet, which is again pretty significant. If you're thinking in terms of meters, that's a good 500 to 600 meters of climb. Um, Now, after a while, though, and this is significantly into the ride, although this picture seems to have come very early in this deck, this I think I'm gonna call my picture of the ride in many ways because if I zoom in a little bit, I don't know if you can see, but I was absolutely exhausted. Now, I'm not one to get off the bike and rest very often. This must have been after a climb of, I don't know, give or take 3,000, maybe 4,000 feet out of the seven-ish thousand that I had to climb. And there were a lot of constraints. The organizers of the trip had, made it mandatory for us to hit certain milestones within a certain period of time. And to be honest, it wasn't the easiest target to achieve. So we had to push while keeping our stamina, conserving our energy, and yet making sure that the milestones were met. So it was quite something. This picture is my wallpaper right now, and although I have a lot of happy pictures, this is what life feels like often. And I want to keep reminding myself that um, a few moments of catching your breath and getting back on to your bike or whatever your ride is okay. And it is such a humbling experience, this. Um, but the very next picture, right after this one, if I can just get it, um, there, okay, I think gone, no, I've gone far back. So the very next picture after that one should have been this. And this is another frame. I just love it. I just love it. Just beautifully captured. And it just gives so much perspective. A few moments back, this is where I was at, and like on the bike, pedaling away, and a few patches of tarmac, and there you go once again. This is again a picture that says so much. What you can see is to the right here, you can see the road that I must have climbed, gone around, and then around the mountain somehow, gone up all of this way, and I've come to this patch again where the tarmac, whatever little tarmac was there, is once again going to give way, and there's this gravel, right, or the, literally no road in front of me. Uh, and yet we pedal on. But look at those mountains. Climbing away, climbing away, climbing away. And once again, I think I'm going to zoom in somewhere here. Oh, but before that, look at those um, clouds and look at those mountains behind me. I mean, it is just mind blowing, right? It's just mind blowing how beautiful this the entire road is. Okay, I think I clicked somewhere and I've gone back again, but don't worry, I'll be there. And this again is one of my pictures of the entire ride. Look at the beautiful, beautiful mountains behind me. I mean, those snow-capped peaks. I'm almost rubbing shoulders with them, don't you think? And by this time, it was starting to get very, very exhausting. I have recorded some videos which I might post alongside this video or maybe as a separate one altogether. But I must be at approximately 15,000 feet now, which doesn't sound like a lot, but now the exertion starts showing on my face. Oh my goodness. I mean, this was the time where I think, if I recall right, I was short of the peak by about 6 kilometers now. On a normal day, I would cover that, even with a fair amount of elevation, in well under 15 minutes or 20 minutes at most. But those last 6 kilometers, I believe, had taken me a good part of 2.5 hours. And look at the scenery though. Here, the raincoat comes off because it's getting warm. You can see the shadow. The sun's kind of beating down on me there. And checking my watch to see how much time I have to meet the, cut-off time. But we pedal on, and now this was about, I recall, 5 kilometers from the peak, and this is where there were these, um, there's ice wall. I want to say glacier, but these were ice walls, which were just amazing, amazing. But I didn't have any time to stop and look at it. But and this was a moment where three of my friends from the group rode up on their rented bikes, and I'll tell you something. As much as it was a relief to see them there, it almost broke me for a bit because I literally wanted to give up and, just sit there with them saying, "All right, guys, take me home." But I wasn't gonna do that, and they weren't gonna allow me to do that. But here they were, with their bikes. They promised to get to the peak and wait for me at the pass. And here I marshaled on towards the peak. This must have been well, this is very, very close to the top. So 17,900 odd feet above sea level. And by the time I got there, I was exhausted. I had had so many moments of almost breaking down, but eventually, this is what it was all about. The top of the world. That's exactly what it felt like. Uh, there was so much that I learned from this ride. When I got back, a lot of people actually, you know, um, commented saying that I had conquered the mountains. Honestly, no, I couldn't conquer the mountains if I wanted to. The mountains let me in their embrace. They were kind enough to not kick me down and, throw me off. They were kind enough to let me experience their grace. That is what this ride was about. Getting to the top was not really a sense of achievement, it was this feeling of grace. It was this life-changing experience of feeling the magnanimity of those amazing, amazing mountains. I mean, if they wanted to, they could have changed the weather, the terrain in a minute, and I would have had to turn back. But they were kind enough to let me go and see, experience their grace. That, my friends, was my journey to the top of the world. Well, the top that I've seen thus far. Another day, there will be another climb. For now, I am going to let the memories and the feeling of this experience linger for as long as I can. And I'm glad I could share this with you today. I hope this story was, it meant something to you, and I hope it inspires you to do something that you've been scared to do or you've been wondering how to get to. Um, Life, I can say now, is all about going one pedal at a time. Thank you so much for watching and listening in. I appreciate your time, like always, and hope to see you in the next one.